Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Mark LaCroix. I'm Executive Vice President of Client Solutions at Natural Capital Partners. I'd like to thank you for joining us today. This webinar is the fifth of 7 in our Climate Finance webinar series. These are virtual conversations, short, half-hour only, rapid fire to support you in a range of topics related to your climate action. Just a few housekeeping things. You're all on mute, but we encourage you to use the box at the right-hand side of your screen for questions. We'll try to get through as many as we can through the course of the webinar. Join us today to talk about this are Nicola Acutt, Vice President, Sustainability Strategy, Office of the CTO at VMware. Hi, Nicola.
Hello, everyone.
VMware became a carbon neutral company across its global operations in 2018, following certifying its data centers in 2017. And Brian Sylvester, Sustainability Senior Manager at Boston Consulting Group. Hi, Brian.
Hello. Hi, Mark.
The global management consulting firm has been a carbon neutral company since 2018. Before we begin, I just want to do a bit of quick scene setting from me. Carbon neutrality has emerged as one of the key pillars of corporate climate action, delivering immediate, tangible impact. And we've seen a significant escalation of carbon neutral commitments since the Paris Agreement. This is an opportunity for companies to internalize that externality that GHG emissions represent, and to really put a price on carbon. Our company has a rich history in carbon neutrality. In fact, some of you may know we were known as the carbon neutral company for much of our 23-year history. Being from Michigan, I always throw in an automotive analogy, and some of you may remember Henry Ford's famous statement back in the early days of the Model T. You can have absolutely any color you want as long as it's black. And we were happy to talk to you about anything you wanted to talk about as long as it was carbon neutrality. This intense focus in our early days led us to provide a robust framework, the Carbon Neutral Protocol, for credible carbon neutral achievements back in 2002. And we've continued our commitment through annual updates to that document ever since. We're going to start today with a quick, as we usually do, with a quick audience poll. So we'd like to just gauge where everyone is on this topic. So just waiting for the poll to come up. There we go. So if you could please select one of the following. Where are you on your carbon neutral journey? Interested? Actively considering it, committed to become carbon neutral, considering certifying, and carbon neutral certified. So if we could just take a minute and click on one of those, and we'll have the results shortly. Here we go, and the survey says interested, carbon. Okay, so lots of carbon neutral, about 44% carbon neutral certified. Some are carbon neutral and considering, and a good about a third, a little under a third are interested. So great. That's great information to have as we head into the rest of the webinar. So Nicola, can you start us out by talking about how carbon neutral certification came about for VMware, and again to the subject matter of our webinar, where it sits in your overall sustainability strategy?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mark. Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be with you today. And for folks who don't know, VMware is one of the world's largest purely software-based companies. And what we do is build a digital infrastructure for our global customer base around compute, networking, security, and digital workspaces. VMware has a long history of doing the right thing. And when I joined the company 10 years ago, they were already ahead of the game when it comes to sustainability in terms of values and culture, built a fantastic campus that is all LEED certified and highly green. However, there wasn't a strategy around sustainability. And in 2015, we took a look at the programs we were running, all, again, all good things on our campus, having great recycling programs and employee programs, but we really hadn't taken it to the next level. And it was in 2014 actually, that we got a letter from CDP. And that was really what kick-started us to focus on our strategy. And so we did that work and decided that one of the key things that we wanted to accomplish was carbon neutrality. And looking at our broad suite of actions around climate, that was our goal. And we set a goal to achieve that by 2020. So, in terms of the drivers for us, it was about, the CDP becoming on our executives' agenda, but also from an employee perspective and competitors' perspective. A lot of the companies that we are challenged for talent with are already ahead of us. So for us, it was about accelerating progress, being at the table, and then starting to lead in this area for VMware. So how it sits, Mark, in our overall strategy, and that strategy has held strong for the last 5 years, was to start with carbon neutrality and to achieve carbon neutral certification. And we'll talk more about why that was important, but ultimately it was about credibility, because what we learned setting our own strategy is that there's a lot of noise in the system and there's a lot of interpretation of claims of carbon neutrality. And from the start, we wanted to be transparent and we wanted to be credible, and hence why that was a key piece of our initial work and focus.
Great, thanks so much for that. I think that's it's really interesting, and I think VMware is a prime example of, I think, the evolution of sustainability programs in a lot of companies where you've got a few disparate programs that are, it's a department, it's a thing you're doing out there, and now you've really brought it together into an overall strategy, so it's integrated into the company's approach to its business. So fantastic, thanks for that. So Brian, over to you. If you could tackle those same questions, talk about your journey to carbon neutrality and how it fits into your BCG's overall strategy.
Yeah, sure. In some ways, it is similar in some ways to the journey that Nicola described. In our particular case, being sort of a leading management consulting firm, we've had a strong and growing social impact practice for some time. So having enabled around about $2 billion in consulting on social impact over the past 10 years or so. And within this, climate and environment is a major priority. And we focus on, our efforts on supporting our clients, contributing to the global climate agenda, and on our thought leadership in this space. So we work with partners and clients in private, public sector and social sectors on a regular basis already, and have done for quite some time. And that only continues to grow as the urgency for all of these actors, and including ourselves, to take action increases, and to drive towards a decarbonized world. But at the same time, we do recognize the importance of being able to sort of walk the talk, so to speak. And so we are and have been committed to minimizing the negative environmental impacts of our business, recognizing, that even though we are a consulting firm, not like heavy industry or anything, our activities are primarily our business travel and our energy consumed across offices does adversely have an impact on the climate and the environment more broadly. And so we're determined to lessen these impacts, and also therefore to walk the talk, and so to speak, to complement what we already do and have been doing with clients and advising them, and our role in wider society. So in 2018, we took the decision that carbon neutral company certification would be a great way to help catalyze company-wide efforts in this regard. And this is where I draw the parallel a little bit to what Nicola was saying, because, you know, it's not as though we started at zero, but a lot of the activity was kind of more localized, given that we're a global firm and spread across the world, and not kind of all pulling necessarily in a unified direction. And what this helped us to do was to provide a framework and some shape to the effort, and to kind of kickstart, or I guess you get reignite or revitalize, maybe even a better word, this sense and the passion that's already there amongst our employee base and BCGers in general. In terms of, I talk about our employees and our staff. That's one of been kind of one of the key drivers for taking this step, is in addition to wanting to complement what we do externally with our efforts internally. We need to also, or we recognize that we have to kind of adapt and address our stakeholder expectations. So on the one hand, we have our employees who want to be proud for a company that they work for and the action that the company is taking on this topic. And then on the other hand, again, as with Nicola's experience, our clients, and via CDP in this case, keep, for example, asking for for us to demonstrate our commitments and our actions and performance there. So that's an example. I mean, there are other ways that we hear from our clients that they want to see what we are doing and how it matches up against what their commitments are. So I think all around it's kind of a positive kind of feedback loop between the involved stakeholders and ourselves as part of that. And then to the last point about where it fits in with our strategy, I think we recognize that this serves as a really great catalyst for getting things boosted. We know, though, that it's not like we're going to rest on our laurels after having taken this step. And so we strive to continuously reduce our emissions, and we're working closely with natural capital partners as part of our efforts to continuously revise and stretch ourselves as much as we can. So we want to learn and adapt. There's a changing global context. Some of these topics are difficult to penetrate and then to build an organization's full embrace of the actions. So I think there's and it's even doubly so as the wider context is so dynamic, right? And that's something that we recognize and that we are committed to and determined to adapt to as things change around us. So active engagement and agility, we think, are key for us to be able to optimize as we go forward and build on this platform. And so and to give an example, I think we recognize that the stakeholder perceptions of carbon neutrality and offsetting are going to evolve as the global conversation and scientific consensus evolves. So accordingly, we're definitely going to seek to work in partnership with all our stakeholders, including natural capital partners, to continuously review and adjust this going forward. So I think to summarize, it's been a really good boost to get things moving at a fast pace that we really desired back in 2018.
Great, thanks, Brian. And one thing that just kind of struck me about both BCG and VMware is that I just have a question for both of you about, and Brian, you touched on it. How important is carbon neutrality in your overall environmental platform and programs? How important is that to attracting and retaining talent? And you both work in industries that your intellectual capital, the brain power that you have running your business is your most important asset. So how important is this to attracting and retaining talent?
I can answer that, and I would say that, Mark, it's one of those things that's difficult because it's intangible, so it's difficult to measure, but it's absolutely clear that it matters. And it shows up in employee sentiment, and it shows up in to me in really interesting ways. But across and our various programs, our recruiting teams really use this information to share with pride the culture as a proof point of the culture of the company. So, without a doubt, this has gone from, like I said, we started this journey 5 years ago to being a key part of our overall employment brand messaging. So the company and employees talk about it all the time as being something that they're really proud of. Having said that, I will also echo Brian's point about stakeholder sentiment and including employees, and that people are more and more sophisticated around and themselves as the world starts to, from a social political perspective, starts to engage more directly around climate and energy and sustainability. So they're more discerning about what is really effective, what the questions around carbon offsets. And so we're finding we're getting more and more sophisticated questions from our employees, really wanting to understand what is a carbon offset, and are you just buying your way out, or is it real, does it really matter? So I think it is an evolving space, and for us, like Brian, it's important that we have credibility and that we are build on carbon neutrality as one of the keystone pieces of our broader long-term strategy.
Great, thank you for that. So, Brian, any comments on the talent question? I know you covered it. Don't feel.
No. I mean, as I said before, it's important to our employees. I think in our case, it's even, and it's really good. And for, in my role in particular, it's very helpful to have a really, really engaged and intellectually curious pool of colleagues who always are keen to make sure that whatever we do is credible, is heading in the right direction, and that we've thought things through effectively. Basically, that we're doing the kinds of thorough approach that we would propose and advise our clients to take, or that we would do for our clients. So that's I think is very good in the sense that and helpful in the sense that it gives us the momentum that we need to constantly challenge ourselves and to see how we can stretch to build on this platform that is here now. And also it helps in the engagements that we have with yourselves at Natural Capital Partners. I think when we work together, I think there's kind of mutual benefit as a result of this determination, curiosity.
Yeah, Brian, it's really great that you bring that up, and this is I mean this with all due respect, but one of the things I've said is with our engagement with BCG is why ask 2 questions when you can ask 12? And it's really, there's a lot of curiosity there, and that's great. It makes us better. These are all good questions. So yeah, thanks for that. By the way, speaking of questions, keep them coming in. We've got a few here coming in. So I'm gonna start with one for Nicola, who's had the opportunity to visit a carbon offset project. So to your point about, are these things real? What is really happening? Could you just touch on your experience with the Guatemala project?
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you asked. So yes, that was a question from our executives, in fact, when we were putting together our strategy, really quizzing me to make sure this is a real thing. We're going to invest a significant amount in a project in Guatemala as part of our carbon finance strategy to get us to carbon neutrality ahead of schedule. So just a little bit of context to the reason we went to Guatemala is our CEO actually challenged myself and our team to accelerate progress. And so one of the strategies we came up with was to focus on a project where we could have meaningful impact pretty quickly. And so, again, you asked earlier, Mark, about broadly how does it fit into your strategy, but then within our carbon neutrality program, we set ourselves a set of objectives and a strategy there where it wasn't transactional, but rather additive and focused on co-benefits aligned with SDGs and aligned with who we are as a company. So we chose to focus on entrepreneurship. And it's just so happened that this project, and with the guidance from Natural Capital Partners, met all of those criteria. At the same time, because it was a big investment, we wanted to make sure it was the real deal. And Mark and his fantastic team facilitated our request to go to one of the projects and see it in action ourselves. And so we went to Guatemala in 2018. It feels just like yesterday, and to do a site visit. And it was actually during the same time that there was the audit. So it was even better for us because we got to see the audit in action. And so that gave us, myself and my team, as well as one of our executives came on this program, a real life hands-on insight into how things actually work on the ground. And so we went to see two of the projects, the Clean Cook Stove project, and then the water filtration. And that was powerful because we were able then, as a result, to personally tell the story of the connection between low carbon sustainable development and our very high tech employees and our business, and the connection between carbon finance and how we're able to bridge the gap, and as a result drive down emissions and achieve our carbon neutrality. And so that experience, connecting the dots, was really important, because I think for a lot of people, they think that sounds like philanthropy or that sounds like charity. And this experience in the field, we were able to really see ourselves, and then we're better advocates and better able to connect the dot and inspire. Frankly, that project and that visit inspired a lot of trust and a lot of also pride. Going back to Mark, your question about employees, that the company would do something like that, that not only is achieving our goals, which is carbon neutrality, but also enabling sustainable development in other parts of the world.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that, Nicola. So Brian, turning to you, you're in a role that lets you understand all manner of details about BCG's environmental impact. How did the carbon neutral protocol help you navigate that detail? Why did you gravitate to that as a construct for your claim?
I think yeah. I mean, so yeah, I explained, in the outset how we arrived at pursuing carbon neutral company certification, and I think to build on that. So then, what's helpful or has been helpful about the protocol itself as a guide or as a framework? Maybe I'll just mention one thing for now. We see how we're doing with time, but I think having the protocol as an independent source to reinforce the importance of, accurate and thorough and rigorous, as well as verified GHG emissions tracking has been helpful. Just in terms to kind of build on the story I told before, wanting to move quickly, we could refer to this as say, hey, look, let's get around, let's try to, we understand the need, and here it is set out for us in a third-party source, for example. And then, so what I think that allowed us then to do is to move very quickly from the sort of less coalesced or less centrally directed GHG tracking to something that is really a lot more rigorous and robust, and that is kind of now a cornerstone for our program that we all really have a lot of confidence in now. So I think, something that seems as basic as that, I think when you're trying to move quickly, having a resource such as the protocol in place to refer to, I think is a real plus. Yeah.
Great. Great. Thanks for that, Brian. So a question from the audience for Nicola. Interested to hear that it was the CDP that prompted your carbon neutrality commitment. Do you think the CDP gives you due credit to your CN carbon neutral status in its scoring? If not, does that matter to you?
I love that question. So, you know, I think it matters less than doing the right thing. And I would say, you know, we wanted to do it anyway. So the CDP absolutely prompted us to take a step back and look more holistically at what we were doing, and frankly, to put in place a strategy. Even though we were doing a lot of good things, we didn't have the rigor around data collection and monitoring and reporting, frankly. And so that really was the driver for the overall, you know, let's step back and look at what we're doing and set goals and targets. And so for us, you know, it was a combination. But ultimately, it was really more about what we want to accomplish as a company.
Great, thanks for that. Yeah, that's perfect. So yeah, just you know, we're kind of running into down to just the last few minutes here, and I guess what I'd like maybe for both of you just briefly to just talk about look forward. You know, what is the future? You know, there's so much going on, even in the COVID world. You know, the rate of kind of the acceleration and the number of commitments we're seeing, different types of commitments. Nicola, you touched on it. You know, there's a variety of different things that people call how they characterize their actions. So what's the future look like? How do you hope to kind of build and grow on your carbon neutral commitment?
Sure. Just so quickly, I mean, I think that you know, there's going to be a lot of learnings, and it's already happening right around the impact of the pandemic and the intersection, in my view, between human health and sustainability and our economy. So I remain hopeful that actually this, you know, may help us accelerate, not help, but may get the mindset shift that we need to accelerate to the future faster around our commitments to sustainability and climate. You know, I think we certainly as a company are leaning in further, and you know, what's next for us is you know, we're in the process of getting our science-based targets approved and looking at, you know, how we push forward to our own net zero goals. And so, as you know, I think as we said at the beginning of this talk, the goalposts keep moving, but rightly so, and requires all of us to step up our game and figure out the best strategies given the nature of your business to move faster to that better future.
Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think I alluded to it earlier, then Nicola again touched on it just a second ago. There's a lot happening around us in the world at large, and so on the one hand, we'll definitely continue to be very active on the broader climate agenda and the work we do with clients and thought leadership. For our program and building on the carbon neutral company certification, I think we want to engage proactively with the broader conversation and to find a way to continue to build on this commitment that is understood and appreciated and seen as credible by our key stakeholders. And so I think, in short, without being able to give a more concrete answer, you'll have to wait for that. I would say it's important that we keep our finger on the pulse and we engage with stakeholders, have two-way dialogues as much as we can, and to learn and to build on the innovative approach that is kind of core to what we currently have. and to challenge ourselves. And as I mentioned earlier, that challenge comes from within as well as from without. So that's what we're looking forward to doing.
Great. Well, listen, we're right up on our time now, and I want to thank Nicola and Brian. I want to thank both of you for joining us today. You can read more, for the audience, you can read more about carbon neutral certification, including case studies of carbon neutral gaming products with Logitech, Sky, Microsoft Xboxes, lots of good examples. So check them out at carbonneutral.com. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Nicola and Brian, appreciate your time and your wisdom, your willingness to share with us, and to everyone else, please join us for our next webinar series. See you next time. Thanks.